I'm going to make this with the assumption that the audio isn't as bad as I think it's going to be, but if it is, then I'll hopefully remember to add captions. So, Julius Caesar, right? He's a guy we've all learned about sometime during our school years. He's best known for his amazing accomplishments during his time in power, like, for example, his conquest of Gaul. And he's also known for his pretty brutal assassination, which is what this current train wreck of a video is about. Now, to understand why his assassination is a pretty big event, we need a little bit of context. We'll name some of the important stuff for time's sake. So, for starters, I think we all know somewhat about how he's basically considered by a lot to be the greatest military strategist of all time. His soldiers adored him, and his victories got him lots of support and popularity. So, when he returned from his grand military adventures, he was Rome's hero. He even got idolized at one point, if I'm not mistaken. He made a bunch of reforms, some benefiting the plebeians greatly, and others just generally being good. He basically aided his people greatly, both economically and politically. So, with all this great clout Caesar gained, it's not really a surprise that quite a few people looked at each other and was like, hey guys, let's go commit first degree murder. And I hate to spoil it for you, but the 60 people in the Senate who wanted to give Caesar a patented stabbing, yeah, they violently stabbed him at least 23 times, though they did a terrible job at it since only one of those stabs were fatal. So, the conspiracy's plan, which initially a pretty thought out plan, I'll give them that, wasn't exactly thought out for after they caused Caesar's permanent coma. Specifically, our guy Brutus, who was only Caesar's closest buddy in the Shakespeare play because Decimus' name was mispronounced and he was decided to be unimportant, and because we shouldn't automatically think that everything Shakespeare wrote is historically accurate. Anyways, Brutus specifically thought that Rome would just continue on and actually go back to how it was before. And he was wrong. Rome was in shock. People were getting more hostile, and eventually all the conspirators left and died eventually. And that was basically the end of that. Well, not exactly the end, because the death of Caesar ended up being an important event even today. I mean, he's quite the influencer in modern day media. I think most of us are aware that William Shakespeare literally made a play all about Caesar and his death. One of my personal favorites is when Damian Lewis reenacts a speech from it. But moving away from modern media and going back to what happened immediately after, Caesar's death kind of started a chain of events that made the Republic transform into an empire. Besides the first emperor Octavian literally having Caesar deified, he was also Caesar's nephew, and his nephew rose to power as one of his last living relatives as well. And Caesar kind of cleared the way for the rise of Octavian, and he was gonna end up being one of the most calculated and brilliant politicians of the entire Roman era. So I guess we can thank his demise for that. So I'm not too sure how history would be right now if Caesar didn't get aggressively attacked, but I think I can safely assume that the Republic wouldn't be the same as the empire we know today. And yeah, compared to like how the Egyptians influenced us, Caesar specifically, his death may not be that much. And it really might not be. But him dying literally started what would become a grand empire. And the death scene is discussed today. It can be used to show us what jealousy and personal ideas can do. And it did give us a pretty good Shakespeare play.